Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Recklessly Skeptical podcast. You can find us on Stitcher, Spreaker, and on YouTube. Email us at recklesslyskeptical@gmail.com.
Hello, everyone. This is Matt.
My name is Josh.
And this is Joe.
We're glad to have you join us on... What's today, guys?
Today is July 9th, 5 days after the 4th of July, which is the day that, what is it? It's South Salt Lake caught on fire because the fireworks people suck.
So you have a problem with freedom, I take it.
Well, I mean, it's fine. I just think it's funny that, like, we can't be adult enough to not start a fire at our fireworks shows.
You guys heard it right here. Josh is anti-freedom, which means he's for socialism.
And that means
socialism kills.
He probably wants the aliens to take over.
What aliens? Oh, those aliens?
July 4th. That's when Will Smith saved us from the aliens.
This podcast is starting off strange.
It is. Why don't we go to a quote?
All right. Stolen thought today, guys. This is coming from Isaac Asimov.
Who's that?
You don't know who he is?
No.
Well, listen to this badass quote.
Okay.
Quote, "Don't you believe in flying saucers?" They ask me. "Don't you believe in telepathy, in ancient astronauts, in life after death?" "No," I reply. "No, no, 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 and again no." One person recently goaded into desperation by the litany of unrelieved negation burst out, "Don't you believe in anything?" "Yes," I said. "I believe in evidence. I believe in observation, measurement, and reasoning, confirmed by independent observers. I'll believe anything, no matter how wild and ridiculous, if there is evidence for it. The wilder and more ridiculous something is, however, the firmer and more solid the evidence will have to be." End quote.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But I do believe in flying saucers.
Like the ones you throw from your... When you
like
get mad with your wife?
Real alien flying saucers.
What caused that?
Well, why else would we celebrate July 4th?
I guess that's a good point.
I'm not walking away from this, okay?
You're going to harp on this July 4th joke and Independence Day movie reference?
Yes.
Whole show?
The whole show.
So what do you think about the Gallup Daily poll?
You said he bounced back?
Well, let me read it so the audience understands too.
Okay.
So real unemployment is at 8.6%. The Gallup Good Jobs is 46.6%. Engaged at work is 32.8%. Economic confidence is at 4, which is a positive 4. Consumer spending is at $127 within the last 3 days, I think is what it's based on. And the Trump approval rating is at 38%. His disapproval rating is at 56%. They changed it so I have to look at 2 separate screens to get everything now, which is lame. But
Yeah, it used to be on one.
yes. Yeah, I mean, and it's just been pretty steady this whole week. The stock market has been down for the week, though. You want ask me how I know, Matt?
How do you know, Josh?
Because I lost fucking money, and I hate losing money.
It's like gambling.
It is. It's a little bit like gambling. Like, my dad would always scold me, "You shouldn't play poker, you son of a bitch." Well, he wouldn't call me a son of a bitch because he's Mormon, but he would scold me and tell me that how stupid he thinks my poker playing was. And it's like, Dad, you have $200,000 in stocks, not like in bonds or in other assets. It's like you have more than $200,000 in stocks, and those things come and go. And it's like you can lose a lot of money in a short amount of time. And then he's like, "No, it's nothing like gambling." And then eventually I got in a stock market. I'm like, "Dad, it's like gambling."
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't really defend it because you're no longer ignorant about the subject. So,
does he still have money in the stock market? Does he still play it?
No, I mean, me and him talk about stocks actually every week when I go and visit my parents. I don't have any confidence that this is not more than a sugar high, because since Trump has taken office, the economy has gone up. But as soon as he runs into difficulty, there's 2 huge hurdles that the economy is based on. Because it's speculation, right? And the economy is based on the speculation that the Health Care Act is going to pass because they have an all-Republican House, Senate, and president. And they're also expecting big tax cuts within the next 4 to 6 months. And so if either one of those things doesn't happen, then the economy is going to come back down hard, like to lose all of the gains that it made during the transition from Obama to Trump. Yeah, I mean, I play the stock market, but my dad is right now. He's in all bonds because those are safer, and I'm in like a third of it is in a C. I have like 3 portions. A third of it's cash, third of it's CD, third of it is in the company that I get ESPP, which is an employee stock purchase plan through. So it's discounted stock, but I have to hold it for a certain amount of time. So that's the reason why I still have stocks. But once the market crashes or takes a hit, then I'm gonna go back into the market.
Well, good luck in your endeavors.
Yeah, this has been Boring Stock Report by Josh.
All right, my first story is coming from Raw Story, and it's a funny one. New poll reveals the first word that comes to mind when Americans think of Trump. So I'm going to ask you guys, and then I'm going to read the story. So, Josh, what's the first word you think of when you think of Trump?
Sad.
Sad. What about you, Joe?
I actually think of a couple words. There's not a first word, though. It's like, I just think of orange crybaby.
Orange crybaby.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the first word that comes to mind when you think of Donald Trump? That's the open-ended question. A Quinnipiac poll asked Americans recently. The number one answer? Idiot.
That's good.
Have you seen anything since then that would move the needle away from idiot? Or from ignorant, which is the 9th most frequent answer, or stupid, the 12th. He doesn't know what's in the Senate's healthcare bill. He's not reading his intelligence briefings. He's watching more Fox News than your cranky uncle. His behavior seems engineered to provoke responses like, can you believe what an idiot, ignoramus, stupid person Trump is? So I want to go down and find the list.
Yeah, and like he's been roughly 18 to 20 points underwater for the last 3 weeks. So, yeah, most people think that he is an idiot. And does it say what the rest of it is? Like, I'd love to know where his MAGA followers are, because MAGA means Make America Great Again, and they have a big troll following online. And let's hear from our friend Awkward Silence.
So I'm going to go down the list. I found the actual list. This is from top to bottom. Idiot, incompetent, liar, leader, so number 4 is okay, unqualified, president, strong, businessman, ignorant, egotistical, asshole, stupid, arrogant, trying, bully, business, narcissist, successful, disgusting, great, clown, dishonest, racist, American, bigot, good, money, smart, buffoon, con man, crazy, different, disaster, rich, despicable, dictator, aggressive.
Dictators in there. What was the second one?
Incompetent.
Oh, second one was incompetent. So it's stupid, incompetent, and then where's the first positive one again?
Leader, which was 4th, but that's not necessarily a positive. They could just say he's like in charge.
Yeah.
So it's idiot, incompetent, liar, leader, unqualified, president.
So like leader.
Yeah. President.
All right, well that is pretty funny. And Joe likes orange. What did you say? Orange buffoon?
Orange crybaby.
Crybaby, yes. But he likes to use that to call other people. I know you're not, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? I haven't been a kid in years. God damn it.
You suck at these kid jokes.
Yeah, that's why I was picked on so much. All right, let's go to my story, I guess. And this is coming from the fake news, according to our president, CNN. Hobby Lobby to pay $3 million fine, forfeit ancient artifacts. Hobby Lobby agreed to forfeit thousands of artifacts from modern-day Iraq and pay a $3 million fine to resolve a civil action the Justice Department brought against the company, according to court documents. The DOJ said the company received the falsely labeled artifacts from the United Arab Emirates-based supplier. The artifacts, ancient cuneiform tablets, and clay belay were smuggled into the United States through the United Arab Emirates and Israel, justice officials said. Cuneiform is an ancient system of writing on clay tablets that was used in Mesopotamia, and clay bullae are balls of clay which seals have been imprinted. The dealers working with Hobby Lobby falsely labeled the shipment as ceramics and samples and illegally shipped them to Hobby Lobby stores in 2 corporate offices, according to the Department of Justice. The arts and crafts chain agreed Wednesday to settlement with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York. Hobby Lobby said it has cooperated with the investigation. In 2009, Hobby Lobby began acquiring a variety of historic Bibles and other artifacts, developing a collection of historically and religiously important books and artifacts about the Bible is consistent with the company's mission and passion for the Bible, Hobby Lobby said in a statement. Let me pause there, and we'll go back down to more. But what do you guys think so far?
I think it's funny that Hobby Lobby not only are religious freaks, they're liars.
Yeah, but it's like we're going to get these Mesopotamian artifacts because we're so Christian, like, because we love the Bible so much that we're going to break the law to do so.
Yeah.
It's a very fundamental Christian thing to do, though. You know what I mean? It fits
they're above the law.
It fits the blueprint of a fundamental Christian.
Do we want to obey God's law or the real law?
Yeah.
We're skipping along here, going down to the section titled Red Flags. Despite warnings from the cultural property law expert, Hobby Lobby went forward with its deal to buy 5,548 artifacts for $1.6 million in December 2010, a deal fraught with red flags, the Department of Justice said. The protection of cultural heritage is a mission that Homeland Security investigations and its U.S. partners, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, take very seriously, as we recognize that while some may put a price on those artifacts, the people of Iraq consider them priceless, said Angel Mendez, a special agent in charge. As a result of the investigation, Hobby Lobby has pledged to set up policies on the buying of cultural property, provided necessary training to its personnel, hire qualified outside customs counsel and customs brokers, and submit quarterly reports to the government on any cultural property it buys for the next 18 months, according to the Department of Justice. So
I'm curious, Josh. Does it say where those artifacts went?
Well, no. I mean, the U.S. takes them. So what would?
So they didn't even receive them. They were.
Oh no, they received a bunch of them. Like
Hobby Lobby.
Yeah,
did.
yeah, of course.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Did Hobby Lobby try to sell them, or did it go to the owner? Do you know what happened to the artifacts?
I mean, it probably went to the owner. They have to keep them on staff. Like, they can't make them disappear without breaking more laws. But who knows? Maybe they don't care about breaking laws.
Yeah.
They're more than happy to use the Supreme Court to make a decision when it comes to women's health or birth control and whether they have to provide it or not.
Yeah.
Because apparently corporations have religious freedoms somehow. But, yeah, I just think it's funny that these guys... And Mesopotamia is an interesting piece of history because it was pre-Jewish tradition. Like, it was established and well-thriving 4,000 to 6,000 years before Christ, prior to Greek tradition, which kind of disproves the timeline of the Bible if you're a fundamentalist and believe that the world is only 6,000 years old. And it also, like... It goes to show a lot of different hypocritical aspects to like fundamentalist religion. Like, they're willing to break the law in order to get these things. They're willing to, and they act like they're ignorant of the law. Like,
yeah.
But you're having things shipped from the United Arab Emirates, essentially marked as like tile and as what was it? Ceramics and samples. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're breaking the law. They knew they were breaking the law, and $3 million is not a huge fine for them essentially stealing cultural work. And I don't mind that there are people who, like, it's not the worst thing. Like going and elephant hunting, but what's it? Poaching. Poaching is something that I think is far more despicable. And with Iraq's, I mean, fairly stable, but it was unstable for a while. So in a sense, some of these dealers are protecting these artifacts, but the artifacts will probably go back to the original owners, which is maybe the Iraqi government. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
I pulled up Hobby Lobby's mission statement.
Good.
We are committed to, and there's 4 bullet points, honoring the Lord in all we do by operating the company in a manner consistent with biblical principles. offering our customers exceptional selection and value, serving our employees and their families by establishing a work environment and company policies that build character, strengthen individuals, and nurture families, even though they won't let you have birth control. Providing a return on the family's investment, sharing the Lord's blessings with our employees, and investing in our community by denying health care.
Yeah, I just don't shop Hobby Lobby. I mean, it's that easy because they have lots of stores. Just don't shop there. There's other alternatives that are far better.
I haven't been in one in a couple years.
I just want to say I haven't been in one in a couple years too, but I just want to say before that, going into that store, man, it was trouble. They have so much cool shit in there. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it sucks.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's still other big chain places to go, like Michael's and other hobby stores, and
Yeah.
smaller hobby stores. Every city has small hobby stores. Joe, your turn.
Alrighty, yeah. All right, so this story is coming from USA Today, and a lot of people. We've been seeing a lot of stuff in the news about Bernie Sanders, and it says Bernie Sanders is being investigated. Well, in fact, he is not being investigated by the FBI. It's his wife. And then, so this is coming from USA Today. Senator Bernie Sanders calls federal investigation of wife pathetic. Senator Bernie Sanders is calling a federal investigation into his wife's handling of finances at now defunct Burlington College a political motivated, unfounded attack. In a testy exchange this week on CNN, the Vermont independent and former candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination defended his wife, Jane O'Mara Sanders, and decried criticism of her time at the college's helm. "My wife is about the most honest person I know," Sanders said Tuesday night on the Outfront program with Aaron Burnett. "It's fairly pathetic that when people are involved in public life, it's not only that they get attacked, but it's their wives and their families that get attacked," he added. "That's what this is about." At issue is a federal investigation focused on allegations that Jane Sanders made fraudulent claims and assurances while seeking $10 million in financing for a 2010 Burlington College real estate deal. The inquiry was first reported this spring by the news website vtdigger.org and confirmed by the Burlington Free Press. Former Burlington College Board President Yves Bradley told the Free Press in May that the Justice Department, with assistance from the FBI, was investigating the institution. The inquiry was centered on a land deal arranged in 2010, while Jane Sanders was college president. She left the college in 2011. Jane has hired a lawyer to represent her in the inquiry, family spokesman Jeff Weaver said this week. Weaver, the former presidential campaign manager for Bernie Sanders, added that investigators had made no contact with Bernie or Jane and said that Jane Sanders had worked honestly on behalf of Burlington College. The senator has made limited statements about the case and bristles when journalists ask. Meanwhile, Republicans are pouncing. Jane Sanders' alleged banking fraud is a lot like Bernie Sanders' approach to policy, Republican National Committee spokeswoman Ellie Hockenberry wrote in one of her string of recent emails that tear into Bernie and Jane Sanders. The criticism wasn't limited to Republicans. A former top federal prosecutor, Preet Bharara, blasted Bernie Sanders on Twitter for claiming the inquiry was political. "All politicians hate investigations," wrote Bharara. An appointee of Democratic President Barack Obama was fired this year by President Trump as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. "All cry political motivation. Democrat, Republican, Socialist, Whig," Bharara added. "Oldest and lamest play in the book." So Burlington College announced in May 2016 that it was closing under the crushing weight of debt, primarily from the land deal. The arrangement involved Jane Sanders brokering a $10 million purchase of 32 acres overlooking Lake Champlain and the 77,000 square foot headquarters of Vermont's Roman Catholic diocese, which needed money to settle a number of priest sex abuse cases. But the increase, so Jane Sanders promised the deal would be paid for through increased enrollment from about 180 to 500 students and $2.7 million in donations. But the increase in student body size and donations never materialized. By 2014, the college had about $11 million in debt, with the land as the only significant asset. Burlington College ended up selling much of the land, now under development, and shut its doors for good. The complaint against Jane Sanders was filed in early 2016, by lawyer Brady Toensing, who served as the Vermont campaign chairman for Trump during his run for president as a Republican. In a separate complaint filed with the time of Burlington College's closure, Toensing alleged that Bernie Sanders' senatorial office pressured a bank to approve the loan. Toensing's letter states that he was recently approached and informed about the tactics of Sanders' office, but the document offers no information about what is said to have occurred or who the source was of Toensing's information. He addressed the letter to Vermont, then U.S. Attorney Eric Miller, and to the acting inspector general of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. The Republican lawyer noted that the investigation began during the Obama administration involving his appointees for U.S. Attorney General and U.S. Attorney for Vermont. In the CNN appearance, Sanders laid blame for the Burlington College investigation directly at Toensing's feet, though the senator never mentioned the Republican lawyer by name. When she came to that college, it was failing financially and academically. When she left it, it was in better shape than it had ever been in, Sanders said. 5 years later, just at the moment, coincidentally, no doubt, when I am a candidate for president of the United States, Donald Trump's campaign manager or co-chair, vice chairman of the Republican Party in Vermont, launched this investigation.
Yeah, and this is some great reporting by USA Today, because most news stories that I've read have been like Sanders under investigation, and it is his wife primarily who's the subject of the investigation. But they always use Bernie Sanders' picture as the thumbnail to try and get clicks on the story, because Sanders is the most popular politician alive.
Yeah.
And so,
and then most people don't read the article, and all they see is, oh, Bernie Sanders is under investigation for bank fraud.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's a blast campaign or whatever they call it.
Yeah, and our friend, and I mean I consider him a friend. I don't think you guys do, but Jacob has been posting things like, oh, look at Trump or Bernie under investigation, and what like
socialism kills, but it has nothing to do with socialism.
Yeah, I mean, even if they were found guilty, and charged with the harshest punishment, that has nothing to do with the validity of socialism.
And I was going to say that this article I take with a grain of salt. I don't automatically think it's a political attack. Maybe there's something to it. I don't know. I want them to investigate it and get to the truth, whether that means she's guilty, and if Trump or Sanders played a role, whatever it is, I don't care either way. As long as they get to the truth, I'm not just going to follow Bernie Sanders blindly because I like him, like a lot of Trump supporters. Get to the truth, figure it out either way, and then let's move on. So,
but also, I mean, if you believe that Trump's campaign may have had help from the Russians, and that was so bad, is it that hard to believe that part of Trump's campaign, the guy who opened up the investigation, was doing it just to blast Bernie? I mean, there's evidence that Trump's people met with Russians. That's a fact. Yeah. And then it's a fact that his lawyer, whoever this guy is, sent the letter to get the investigation opened on Bernie Sanders. Yeah, that's during the campaign.
Yeah, that's true. But the fact that the FBI is investigating her, Bernie's wife, means that they possibly see some validity to this guy's letter. So, or they just think it's worth investigating, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and being worth investigating doesn't mean that it's going to come back with even a prosecution. Like, that's we found that out during the Hillary Clinton campaign. Like, the guy, and I disagree. I mean, like, I just don't necessarily agree that there was nothing there. But I mean, that's my opinion, my legal opinion. But with this, I mean, they'll come back. They might very well come back and say, "Hey, we don't see any charges worth investigating further."
So, but what I was asking Matt was, are you denying that it's a political attack? Because I feel like that's exactly what it is.
I mean, it probably is, but
yeah, I mean,
whether that's the case or not, I don't think it's really that relevant. I mean, people in politics attack the other people in ways all the time. So let's say it was a political attack. So be it. But the fact is that the FBI sees something enough to investigate. So there is some validity to this guy's letter.
Yeah. But then also I want to show that she got this money for the school, and then it went into the school. You know what I mean? They bought the land. They did all this, and I imagine that she thought the school was actually going to do better, and that people do things like this all the time when they're running a business or school or college or whatever. They'll get loans for said business all the time, and sometimes the business fails and it doesn't do as well as they thought it was going to do, and then
and speculation is a necessary part of business.
Yeah, exactly. And so I definitely feel like this is a political attack, and of course probably the FBI are like, okay, yeah, we're going to investigate it, and it's probably nothing that big, but of course the people on the right and the people on the left are like, you know, the people on the right are definitely attacking, oh, Bernie Sanders is being investigated with fraud, and even the people on the left are like, they're not even standing up for him, you know what I mean? They're just letting the right do this and say this. And
well, and it's not really that big of a news story. I don't think the reason that I like USA Today's is because they take the story seriously enough to do a full two or 3 page article on it.
Yeah.
Most places are just like, oh, they're under investigation. I don't think that they're necessarily trying to be dishonest. They're just dishonest by accident because they're not giving readers all of the facts.
Yeah.
But yeah, with talking to Matt's position of saying maybe there is something to it, I'm not going to make a conclusion. I think that's the right position to take because you don't necessarily need to come to a conclusion on this. There will be more information to come out.
Like we always say, it's okay to say, I don't know.
Yes.
And if you think you're always right about everything, then you're a jackass.
Which I am.
Yeah, but
I'm just kidding.
Going back to our friend, the libertarian-minded person, he doesn't like titles, so we'll call him libertarian-minded. But I think Christian libertarians are ironic in a couple of senses. First off, there are socialistic values that are expressed in the Bible, like explicitly. And then, secondly, I think it's funny that libertarians are all about personal
freedom?
No, not freedom, but
property, life,
responsibility, personal responsibility.
Yes.
But yet they believe in a savior who's going to take all of that personal responsibility away from them. You don't have to pay for your sins. Jesus is going to do it.
They're going to lecture everyone about personal responsibility, and then they're going to try and make you believe in their scapegoat.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what Jesus is essentially. Like, if God's justice is to say, hey, you don't have to pay for your sins, you just have to believe in Jesus Christ and worship us. Like, that's like the biggest scapegoat I could ever think of. That's the least personal responsibility, because in a real justice system, the reason American justice system doesn't allow for you to pay a slave to take your place, because that historically has been a thing that's happened in European things, is that you either have to do or pay your sentence or have somebody else pay it, or like with conscripts, you could have somebody else go to war for you. But in America, we don't believe in that because we do believe in personal responsibility. So
it's funny. I remember that was one of my issues I had growing up. Anybody, even Hitler, if he just confessed to God and prayed to him and accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, he could get to heaven. And it's like, well, yeah, where's all the accepting the responsibility of the crimes or the horrible things you've done, you know? Like, it's not there. But Jesus Christ is the biggest scapegoat in the fucking world.
He paid for your sins, Joe.
He paid for all of them.
You're a worthless, reckless human being otherwise.
Christians talk about justice, how in the atheistic worldview there is no justice because the rapist and Hitler, they won't be punished in the end, and they will just die and nothing happened. They lived their life. They did the horrible things. But Christianity, where they say justice will be had, it has the biggest loophole, like you're saying, Joe, where you just ask for forgiveness. So will that rapist and Hitler, in our worldview, just die and it sucks and we have to work and do our best to make people pay for the crimes they commit? Or in the Christian worldview, where they can just ask for forgiveness and spend the rest of eternity floating on clouds, eating grapes and banging hookers or whatever you're going to do in heaven.
Angels. You bang angels.
or the other side of it. You could
angels love humans.
You could be Mahatma Gandhi.
It's in the Bible.
You could believe or be Mahatma Gandhi and then suffer for eternity.
Yes, because you didn't accept that some weird Jewish guy was nailed to a cross for you.
Yeah, and so I also referred to
bullshit.
I referred to him as a Christian, even though he's Mormon, and a lot of people think Christians aren't Mormons aren't Christians, Now, the only thing I have to say about that is that if your make-believe Trinity has a make-believe Jesus Christ involved in it, then you are a Christian. Like, that's the only standard to be a Christian in my mind.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And Hitler was actually Christian.
Yeah, he was. Well, he was Christian with some woo involved. Like, he believed in
The occult
the occult, special artifacts and shit. Like, if he gets these 3 artifacts, he'll be invincible or something.
The Ark
like
of the
that.
Covenant and the Goblet of Fire and
Yeah.
Harry Potter's stick wand.
Stick wand.
I've also
Hitler's
heard
got Harry Potter's stick wand.
I've also heard Mormons say that, because you'll ask them, well, what about Gandhi? Gandhi's not going to go to heaven. And I've heard some Mormons say that all religions have some truth, and they're all different paths to the same God. But what makes that absolute bullshit is because all of these different religions have specific rules, things you have to believe to be saved.
Yeah.
Like, they have certain things. So how can you have a religion that says you have to believe in Christ and ask for forgiveness, blah, 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 to go to heaven, and then on the other hand say, no, you can go to heaven on your other path. It makes no sense. It's bullshit.
I'll explain that in a second. But yeah, so one thing I wanted to comment is, yes, Christians, every sect of Christianity, the reason why they're all different sects is because they have mutually exclusive rules, which means that if you believe in one sect of Christianity, that means you believe in this set of certainly mutually exclusive rules, and so other sects of Christianity, because they believe in different mutually exclusive rules, they can't be the same. Like, they disagree on things, fundamentally things. But with Mormons, they believe in spirit prison, spirit paradise after you die, which happens before you go to judgment. So you can be saved in that time frame when you have Mormon missionaries knocking on your heavenly door, I guess. You're wandering around aimlessly across the earth as a ghost, and then these Mormons, hey, you want to come and be saved?
You want to drink some punch?
And that's just bullshit.
Man, that would suck.
To say that this other person gets to go to spirit paradise just because they accepted some story with no evidence, and I have to go to spiritual prison or whatever you called it because I didn't believe your bullshit story because there's no evidence that that gullible person deserves some special afterlife and I don't deserve it because I didn't believe the story. That's just an asinine fucking view. And if you think that, I might like you, I might think you're a good person, but when we get down to the bottom and if you actually believe that, I think you're a fucking asshole.
See, and another thing too, like, it's hard. A lot of Christians think atheists just don't believe it because they don't want to or whatever.
Yeah,
and
we
it's like
wanna sin.
I just can't believe it. I just can't. As much as I wanted to when I was younger and tried to, and as much as I guess I should say forced myself to believe, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it wholeheartedly. There was no evidence. There was no facts. Everything contradicted itself, and I tried and I tried and I tried, and I was like, well, maybe God will come down and help me and all this shit. It never happened. And as much as I wanted to believe, I just couldn't. I couldn't anymore.
A lot of people, religious people, have been indoctrinated in how to interpret facts. And
Yeah.
I think that far more than the experiential view of Christianity, there's a psychological aspect to religion that says, hey, these coincidences aren't coincidences. God doesn't roll the dice. Like, these things are things that happen in your life because of God's influence. And so they psychologically they ensnare you, they trap you like that. So for them, it's so obvious to them that, hey, look at all these coincidences that happened in my life. God has to be real. Like, for them, it's just so obvious. And for us, it's like, no, those are so obviously just coincidences. And so they get psychologically entrapped. And I've been there. Or go ahead.
And you're spot on, Josh. And that's what makes it so hard to have some of these conversations with believers because they are so indoctrinated. They think they are doing a good thing. They think they are doing the right thing. And then they have that group.
Yeah, my mom, my grandma, herd mentality.
They have the herd mentality where everybody's emotion just bounces off of each other, and their experience confirms the other person's, and it's a great experience for everybody, and they're not looking at things objectively.
Yeah,
they're not.
Yeah, and there's mirror neurons, so someone has a spiritual experience and bears their testimony, like your mirror neurons fire off. And then we've talked about the backfire effect, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where if someone attacks your beliefs, that you become not less likely to believe them, even if they're coming with hard facts, objective facts about things. Like Joseph Smith was a criminal, like he was a confessed criminal, and you come to a Mormon with something like that, then they have to interpret it in a way that makes sense for their world. No, it's slander. It's slander. It definitely is not this. He wasn't a criminal. He was a prophet of God, and they come out of the argument more certain that they're right.
And how long again has Mormonism been around?
I want to say 200 years.
And I think it's funny that there's already at least 2 different Mormons now. You know, you got your FLDS, then your regular LDS.
Oh,
now.
dude, there's at least
more.
3.
And then the Jack Mormons, the people who believe it, who aren't really.
You have the Mormons that stayed in Missouri.
Yeah, our LDS, the Reformed LDS Church, and they actually have backpedaled away from like the Doctrine and Covenants completely, and they hold the Book of Mormon as lesser than the Bible, which is so bizarre. I mean, like, all of it is so bizarre. Again, we're talking about made up fairy tales. Like they're nothing more than mythology. Like it's just all made up. And Christians are no less made up than the Mormons are. But the Mormons, for most people, they can see the facts that, like, hey, the Native Americans are not Jews that sailed across on a boat. But then you talk about Noah, and Noah survived for a year, supposedly on a boat with 2 of every animal. That's just as fucking insane.
And he was 900.
Yeah, and he was 900 years old. I have to think, and I mean, this is all lost in translation, but I have to think that the original people who wrote the Bible weren't counting years the same way we count years or think of years now. I mean, I can't believe that. But
see, then a lot of Christians take that and say, oh, well, it's lost in translation. It's got to be real. It's just that we translated it wrong. So it's got to be real, and then they still believe it, but then they don't and actually go and investigate it, what it actually said. You know, like old languages, dead languages, or whatever. They just still believe. And
they believe it's the
could have been
inerrant Word of God. The English Bible is the inerrant Word of God, which has been translated several times, has like 50 different sources, and a lot of the books that should have been in the Bible, if they were to include everything, got left out during the council in 135 AD or 155 AD, where they left out a bunch of these Gnostic Gospels because they contradicted either Paul's writing or the first 4 books of the Bible so badly that they couldn't be included.
I know there was the Book of Enoch, and there was a couple other ones. There was even one from a female that my mom had, and I think it was Mary Magdalene or whoever it was.
Supposedly. But the Gnostics weren't writing the Bible saying that this is literally what happened. The Gnostics were writing the Bible like through spiritual eyes. Like they wrote it down to be allegory, not to be taken as literal history. But for some reason, those Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all get this pass that they're inerrant words of God.
Because it fit better.
Yeah, I mean, it fit the Roman Christianity that was around at the time.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, your story.
Let's get this ball rolling. This story's coming from The Independent. American Cardinal Raymond Leo Burke blames pedophile priests on radical feminists.
Yeah.
I don't even need to read the story. You know, the reason why guys molest little boys is because of feminism. All right, here we go. An American cardinal has claimed that radical feminism is to blame for a host of issues within the Catholic Church and blame feminists for creating pedophiles or sexually confused, disordered men who entered the priesthood and sexually abused children.
God.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Cardinal Raymond Burke, who was last year demoted by Pope Francis.
Good job, Pope Francis.
Yeah. From the head of the Vatican's highest court to a role with little responsibility, has claimed that the radical feminism, which has assaulted the church and society since the 1960s, has left men very marginalized.
You mean so priests weren't molesting little boys before the 1960s?
No, this is new.
Oh, okay.
This is a new thing, Joe.
And it all happened because of feminism.
Except, yeah, history tends to disagree from what I've read.
The cardinal is known for his vehement opposition of greater acceptance of gay people and divorces within the church. But in his interview with the site The New Evangelization, it's a weird word, he voiced his opposition to the radical feminist movement and its strong influence, which has led the church to constantly address women's issues at the expense of addressing critical issues important to men. including the emphasis on particular gifts that God gives to men for the good of the whole society.
So it sounds like he's scapegoating his own pedophilia by using feminism or whatever.
Yeah, in 5 years it's going to come out that he's a pedophile.
Yeah.
He argues that the case for women's rights has led to men growing up without proper identities, which has detrimental effect in later life. He calls these men poorly formed and blames this for their addictions to pornography, sexual promiscuity, alcohol, drugs, and a whole gamut of addiction. The Cardinal believes that a fluffy, this is a quote, the Cardinal believes that a fluffy, superficial kind of approach to the question of human sexuality and the nature of the marital relationship over the years has been an equally damning effect on men, where men were not taught that they are made in the image of God. So, what do you guys think? I wonder, do you guys want to go molest little kids?
Yeah, every time I get in an argument with a feminist, it's like, what the fuck am I going to do now to blow off all this steam?
Go molest little boys.
Yeah. I mean, no, I that's ridiculous. I mean, that's ridiculous in so many different ways. And I mean, we don't even really have to get into the minutia of it. The audience, I'm sure, is smart enough to figure out why that's fucking stupid.
And I want to point out that Josh and I have argued a few times about feminism, and we don't agree on everything. And we both think this story is just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to be more pro-feminist than Matt does, but whatever. Whatevs.
Whatevs. Egalitarian. What?
Yeah, he likes that term. I just don't care. I mean, you guys, okay, audience, you decide what I am. You can go through my whole movie collection on ZZZ Giant Awake and kind of piece together what I am. I hardly ever talk about feminism, though, on that channel. Like, I just rarely do. Intersectionality creates, like, trying to enforce intersectionality on public has obviously created a lot of drama. And I don't know, intersectionality is a complex idea, and it does have a hard time translating into reality. It's fairly abstract, and I think that's where most of the problems are. I think first and second wave feminists make a lot of sense, or feminism makes a lot of sense. So
Yes.
all right, I'm gonna go on, and unless Joe had something he wanted to talk about with feminism.
No. I think women are great, and they can be as strong and as independent as any man.
Just as long as they're in the kitchen while doing so.
No, I don't believe that.
No, I'm kidding.
Hey,
Of course.
why are women's feet so small?
Why?
So they can stand closer to the sink. Why don't women wear watches?
Why?
Because there's a clock on the stove.
Oh, you're going to.
Yeah, he's going to feminism hell.
Yeah.
We're now gonna get overwhelmed by by feminists.
Matt, every time you make a joke like that, I'm going to buy a mug that says male tears.
All right, so this is
Which I think is pretty rude in itself.
and this week in scary news.
Scary news.
This is coming from, I guess Trump calls it fake news, the New York Times. I just can't avoid reading fake news stories, I guess.
It's all fake. It's all stupid.
U.S. confirms North Korea fired intercontinental ballistic missiles. Seoul, South Korea. The Trump administration on Tuesday confirmed North Korea's claim that it had launched an intercontinental ballistic missile, and it told Pyongyang that the United States would use the full range of capabilities at our disposal against the growing threat. The administration followed up that warning on Wednesday morning with the joint military exercise in which the United States and South Korean forces fired ballistic missiles into the water along the Korean peninsula's east coast. But North Korea reaffirmed Wednesday that it would never deviate from its determination to bolster its nuclear and missile abilities as long as the United States' hostile policy and nuclear threat persisted. The North's state-run Korean Central News Agency said that its intercontinental ballistic missiles, the Hwasong-14, Hwasong, I think, yeah. Sorry, I apologize. I don't know a word in Korean. Was capable of hitting the heart of the United States with very large, heavy nuclear warheads. The launch, according to the agency, successfully tested the functions of the missiles to propulsive stages and the warhead's ability to endure the intense heat and vibrations as it entered into the Earth's atmosphere. On Wednesday morning, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un taunted the United States, saying the launch was a 4th of July gift to the Trump administration. The Korean Central News Agency said the country's citizens were happy with the great timing of their leader's decision to hit the arrogant Americans in the nose by conducting its first ICBM test to coincide with Independence Day. So there's a lot of things that we need to break apart here. So the claims by North Korea is that this can hit like the heartland of the United States. Experts in South Korea, and this is United States experts and South Korean experts, don't believe that it can hit anywhere. Maybe Alaska.
Maybe Alaska is what I heard,
and which would also include Hawaii, I think. But I mean, it's getting to the point where it's scary because if they can get to Los Angeles, I mean that's devastating. Even right now, like if we were to try and invade North Korea, the life loss in Japan and South Korea would be insane. So what they have what they can do and what they can't do, they are not able to miniaturize nuclear warheads like us in Russia, which means that we essentially can launch a missile from a starting point and then have it travel all the way around the world and hit itself, easily. And by miniaturizing the warheads, it makes it so the missile can actually go the full distance. Because if you have large warheads on a missile, it makes it obviously heavier, makes it more unstable, and more likely the large warheads are more likely to explode on coming back into the atmosphere. And then they don't have the ability yet to have dry. I'm trying to think of the term, dry fuel rockets, which means that they have to, in order for them to launch the rockets, they have to put the fuel in at the time that they're going to launch it. They can't just like leave it in there because it's corrosive, because gasoline and it's not gasoline, but the rocket fuel. It would corrode the missile if they left it in there. So right now, I mean, the weapons they have are slow, they're clunky, and they also won't necessarily hit their target. But, I mean, even if they launched a nuclear weapon into the atmosphere and it blew up in the atmosphere, there could be unknown devastating effects. I mean, Russia has done it a few times, and the effects that it was having, blowing up missiles in the atmosphere, was that it was like destroying the ozone layer along with other things. But there was a treaty to stop any nuclear tests in the atmosphere because it was so dangerous. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to be worried about. But that being said, North Korea is no more of a threat yesterday or the 3rd of July than it was on the 4th of July. Like, really, they're going to have missiles ready to go with the fuel on the side just to blow up South Korea and Japan because they're our allies. So, I mean, and the news is kind of blowing this out of proportion. It does sound like the war drums are starting to beat in regards to North Korea. So we may see an attack initiated in North Korea by the United States.
Yeah, and if you watch Fox News, that's what they're all calling for. Yeah. Fox News, I watched a few different reporters basically say we should do an offensive strike, preemptive strike against North Korea, and that will kill thousands or millions of Japanese people and South Korean people.
You know what? I do not condone North Korea's actions. I don't. But I do understand the propaganda and the rhetoric that they've been spitting out for the past 70 years. I believe 60, 70 years, however long. We were dropping napalm on civilians there. You know what I mean? The American people have done some, or the American government, has done some fucked up shit, especially in the past. But I don't condone their actions, but I get it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I get why they're so upset. You know what I mean? Especially because ever since the war with North Korea, they have hated America since, and I understand that. You know what I mean? I totally understand that. But I don't condone what it is they're doing. But I also don't condone what America did to them.
Yeah.
You know?
But Kim Jong-un, it's not like his people are living lavish lives or good lives. So it's just him and his generals being cruel dictators.
Yeah.
And he hurts his civilians, we hurt the civilians, and if anything happens, more civilians are going to die. It's not
it's like when Syria gassed their own people, so we went and dropped bombs on Syria.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
But we bombed a base, and we did it in such a way that it wouldn't upset Russia, and they were able to use the airfield the next day because they just blew up some old planes. Like, Yeah, I mean, if you start paying attention to the news and what's going on with the world affairs, like, we definitely want to be involved in a lot of places because it helps the monetary interests in the White House. Like, the war machine is a real thing. Like, that's not a conspiracy. I mean, you can look at the lobbyists for different aspects of the war machine, like the people who make money, OPEC. From the gasoline that they are able to take or monopolize on. You can see the arms dealers, Boeing and others, contribute to make sure that we stay in the Middle East. And I mean, like, these types of things are fairly open. Like, there's not really much of a conspiracy to be had. It's these people have interests in making sure that certain plans fall into place, so their stock prices go up. And there's not really a conspiracy there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Their stock prices are going up, and people are dying in the meantime.
Yeah.
It's a fucking joke.
Yeah, and they don't care. I mean, the stock price is what matters to them, and we'll see. Like, and that's the thing that bothered me when I met with my parents this week, and they're missionaries. So any news that gets to them, like, they must have caught, like, because it's big news in that side of the world. And they're like, oh, we heard that we're going to have to go to war with North Korea. And it's like, oh, my God, no, we don't have to go to war with anybody.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand the limitations of what North Korea is doing is that they have South Korea and Japan technically held hostage. And if we go in, we're risking losing lots of civilians' lives. And there is a tactical way to take out Kim Jong-un without causing a war, but China's going to have to sign off on it. And I don't know it doesn't sound like China wants to sign off on anything in that regard. So.
Yeah, China and Russia have both urged both sides, the Americans and the North Koreans, to take a break, chill out, relax.
Hell, Seth Rogen figured out a way to take out him. You know what I mean?
Well, so did those two actors who made that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a segment that we've done off and on has been the stories we couldn't get to, and this week we're going to do that again. And this is kind of my interpretations of the headlines. So Steve Bannon wants to raise tax prices against companies in a Machiavellian way. Cardinal Pell is going back to Australia to face charges, our favorite cardinal. We've talked about him at least twice before. UN suggests the complete decriminalization of drugs. Trump meets with Putin at G20, and only with him, Tillerson, Putin, and one Putin aide in the room along with translators. So there were only 6 people. That one I do want to unpack for just a second. So at the G20 summit, Trump met with Putin, and the people in the room were Trump, Tillerson, Putin, and Putin's aide. And the reason that this story is important enough to unpack a little bit is that, so first off, if there was a conspiracy, like if Trump met with Putin and they wanted to strike a deal, and it has to do with that ExxonMobil deal that was supposed to happen that got blocked by Obama. Those are the people who would get the most out of that kind of a deal, and they were left alone in a room with just 2 translators, and the translators take a vow of secrecy. So, like, there's nobody to hold that meeting accountable. And Tillerson and Putin's aide were both tweeting while this was going on, and they got to a point where they were saying essentially, like, oh, Russia, or the first thing Trump asked was about the interference, and later on he tweeted, we might just have to agree to disagree on this subject. And what is odd about that is that means that, because we have sanctions in place because of that, and this might be them saying, well, we're going to get past the sanctions because we agree to disagree. And that's bullshit. Like, absolute horseshit. Like, if you have to keep those sanctions in place because Russia essentially broke international law by meddling with our elections, if that's the case. And we don't know if that's the case or not. There's still an investigation ongoing, but yeah, I guess that's what we're going to get from that. Congress decides that sleeveless shirts do not match their dress code. And this is all of a sudden, they have a fairly open dress code, like it's to the interpretation of the House, pretty much.
It says, like, business attire.
Yeah, and they've decided that sleeveless shirts don't match their definition of business attire. All of a sudden, G20 protesters clashed with police at the G20 summit. 44 states refused to give Trump full voter information, and an iceberg in the Antarctic is about to break off, and it would become the world's largest iceberg in history. So, all those people who think that oh, well, the Antarctic, there's more glaciers than and so that means global warming can't be happening, and it's like, well, we're about to lose, like, It's not a huge percentage of it, but it'll be the world's like it'll mess with trading routes because of how big it is. It'll break off and move north. So
And it's land ice versus sea ice.
no, this is sea ice.
Oh, it is sea ice?
Yes, this is sea ice, but this gets out of the way of more land ice to break off. Like,
Gotcha.
I mean, if you're resting your belief on the fact that Antarctic has more ice technically than it used to, you're about to lose that debate as like this breaks off, and as I'm sure more will break off from the Antarctic, and so global warming is a fact. But that's all we've got for news this week.
My next story it doesn't fall in line, but it is science. It's a science story. So, none of that.
Dude, dun,
I
dun,
got a science story.
dun 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 dun.
Joe!
Science. Okay, whatever. All right, so this is coming from I Fucking Love Science. Scientists just ruled out an indicator for life on Saturn's moon, Enceladus, or however you want to say it. The organic molecule methanol was once thought to be a possible indicator there was life under the surface of Saturn's icy moon, Enceladus. But we've just found a ton of methanol elsewhere around Saturn, suggesting it is not as important as we thought. A few months ago, NASA confirmed that under the ice of Enceladus, there's hydrothermal activity that propels complex molecules into space. The Cassini probe detected hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and methanol, among other substances, and now a study indicates that we might have been looking at only part of the picture. In a study presented at the National Astronomy meeting at the University of Hull in UK this week, researchers announced the discovery of a greater amount of methanol in Saturnian system that previous detection made by Cassini as it flew through plumes ejected from or by Enceladus. This suggests that methanol production might be happening away from this icy moon but still driven by the moon itself. Our findings suggest that the methanol is being created by further chemical reactions once the plume is ejected into space, making it unlikely it is an indication for life on the icy moon. These observations were conducted by Jane Greaves of Cardiff University and Dr. Helen Fraser of the Open University using the IRAM 30-meter radio telescope in Spain. The plumes of Enceladus fuel materials in the E-ring of Saturn, and in the team's observation, they suddenly found a very bright emission of methanol. The detection of this complex molecule, made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, was not expected, and when they saw such a clear signal, they knew something odd was happening. This points at two possible explanations for the strong signal. Either the methanol from the plumes penetrates deeper into the E-ring than thought, or a large cloud was trapped by Saturn's magnetic field. Either option, though, can't explain the more abundant methanol unless it's formed in space. While organic molecules like methanol can be produced by life forms, they can be produced by chemical processes too. This research suggests that the latter is more likely to be the case for Enceladus, but the detection is important by itself, both for the method and its implications. This observation is incredibly important because it is the first detection of a molecule in Enceladus vicinity from a ground-based telescope. The Cassini spacecraft is coming to an end towards the end of the year, and in situ, observations from future space missions won't be possible for another decade or so. The only way for us to continue studying this environment in the meantime is by using remote telescopes. Cassini is now in the last few months of its mission before it takes a final plunge into Saturn at the end of September. A new Saturn mission is currently in the works, but until that happens, good instruments are the best we have. Ground instruments are the best we have. And there's plenty more science that they can do. One really interesting thing ground-based observatories can do in the meantime is to study how Enceladus plumes vary in time, said Dr. Debrick Maunder. In past flybys, Cassini found that Enceladus huffs and puffs, meaning the plumes appear to be brighter when Enceladus is furthest away from Saturn. However, we don't know if the molecules being ejected from Enceladus vary over time, and if variability is also found within the E-ring. We learned so much about the Saturn in the 13 years Cassini explored it. but it seems there's a lot more to learn. So they're thinking the methanol was a good indication that there was life there, but they found that it could be other chemical processes that's causing the methanol. So it's kind of a bummer, but
yeah, it's almost makes you think it's a dead end, but it isn't a dead end.
It's not a dead end.
It's sad in a way because we do want to find life out there. Now we're thinking this isn't an indicator, so we're going to have to change our game and look in different ways.
So
I don't want to end on a sad note, though. So if anyone wants,
it is sad.
Well, here's okay. Here's the kind of the counterbalance. Then I'm going to make a prediction, Joe.
Okay.
Here's my prediction. I bet you within our lifetimes we find some form, not necessarily living life, but we find that there is life, there was or is life outside of our planet in our solar system. I will put that prediction out there now. I think that other life forms do exist in our universe, and it'll probably be microbes and shit like that, but we will find other life in our solar system.
You think in our
lifetime?
system?
In our lifetime, in our solar system, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think that that's going to come to fruition.
God, I hope so, man.
Yeah, whether it's former life on Mars that's been trapped or whatever, and I think that we'll find it, and it'll be in our solar system.
You know, I was talking to someone at work the other day. This is off the subject of life, but still the solar system and stuff. And they were saying when we build bases on other planets, they're going to need electricians and stuff like that, and people who are qualified to understand that. And I know it won't happen in my lifetime, but I kind of wish it would, because I would jump on the chance to
might
go to the moon and be a part of the building process and to come back. You know what I mean? That would be.
But there are people in place with plans for Mars, like
Yeah.
to create little biospheres in Mars, which makes me think of the shitty movie with Pauly Shore.
Biodome?
Yeah, Pauly Shore and what's his name in it?
I want to come back as a leotard.
The worst. God, brother, I'm trying to think of the name. Baldwin, the worst Baldwin brother, because he really is the worst of all of them. And I'm not a fan of any of the Baldwin brothers, and that's my bias. Like,
Yeah.
whatever.
He's super religious, right?
Yeah,
he's
like
a freak religious.
He's been quoted throwing back that old phrase, because I'm sure the fuck that he is not smart enough to figure it out himself. There's still, if we came from monkeys, then why are there still monkeys?
Oh God,
and like that's the dumbest thing. It's like, if we came from our grandparents, why do we still have cousins? It's like you don't make any sense. You don't understand science, and you don't understand evolution.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We love you. Remember, you can find us on YouTube, on Stitcher, on Spreaker. Look us up. Listen, give us a like, give us a share. You can join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/The Evil Atheist, and send us an email, recklesslyskeptical@gmail.com.
and don't be afraid to comment.
We love you.
Thanks.
Peace.